Narcissists in 2025 aren't what they used to be. They've evolved, they're adapting to trends, and missing the signs could leave you exposed to their new tactics of manipulation. I spent the last 20 years researching self-worth and narcissistic relationships. As a coach, author, and survivor myself, I teach practical systems to help empower you. In this video, I'll share 5 new red flags to watch for, explain why narcissists are changing, and show you how to protect yourself from their manipulation. Have you ever seen a post online and thought, this feels a lot more like it's about attention than connection? Since the pandemic, so much of our communication has moved online, whether it's with family, friends, or coworkers, and that shift has been a great thing for narcissists. Social media gives them the perfect stage to control how they're perceived. They can carefully curate their image, avoid awkwardness of face-to-face conversations, and test boundaries in ways that feel subtle but still pack a punch. And it doesn't matter if they're influencers with thousands of followers or if they're your Aunt Hilda with her private account with her 15 handpicked friends. Narcissism can show up in both. Influencers might feed their need for attention by posting dramatic stories or chasing likes or thriving on the validation of a big audience. On the flip side, someone like Aunt Hilda might heavily curate her small little circle, creating an illusion of exclusivity or elite belonging. She posts to signal importance within that private little group and always makes sure that she's at the center of the attention, even in a smaller pond. The more you scroll, the more this behavior starts to feel normal. Over-the-top posts from influencers or hyper-curated updates from private accounts can desensitize you to manipulation. You might even feel pressured to engage, like you owe them a comment or a reaction, and that's exactly what they're counting on. When you catch yourself scrolling, ask yourself, what story is this person trying to make me believe? Recognizing this can help you avoid normalizing narcissistic behavior. In 2025, words like narcissist and gaslighting are everywhere. But what happens when these terms get overused? Narcissists are adapting, leaning into subtle tactics to avoid detection. Searches for narcissist have skyrocketed over the past decade, and gaslighting was named Merriam-Webster's Word of the Year in 2022 after searches surged by 1,740%. While this growing awareness has helped many people spot red flags, it also has an unintended side effect. Narcissists are adapting. But they aren't sitting around studying psychology or planning new strategies. They're simply testing what works. Narcissists are constantly trying to manipulate, and when a tactic stops being effective, they'll naturally adjust to something else. As people become more aware of overt behaviors like grandiose bragging or obvious gaslighting, narcissists have started to lean into more subtle, covert tactics. They might try to make themselves seem more vulnerable, playing on your compassion. They might lean into stories of being misunderstood, or they might try humble bragging to seem more down to earth. This matters because pop culture often paints narcissists as funny or over-the-top personalities or harmless caricatures, but the reality is much darker and much more dangerous. They actively harm others, preying on empathy, manipulating emotions, and leaving lasting damage in their wake. When these terms are thrown around casually, it waters down their meaning and it makes it harder for real victims to be heard. For people who have lived this nightmare, it's not just frustrating, it can feel re-traumatizing. Meanwhile, narcissists continue testing what works, hiding in the noise and blending in with the chaos. When someone gets labeled a narcissist, pause and check in with yourself. Ask yourself these questions to ground your perspective. First, who's saying it and why? Is this coming from someone reliable who's had firsthand experience with this person, or could it be based on bias or frustration or misunderstanding? Second, what's your personal experience with them? Think about their behavior. Do you see repeated patterns of manipulation, control, or lack of empathy? Or do your interactions feel mostly balanced and respectful? Third, how does this label sit with you? Does calling them a narcissist help you make sense of their behavior and bring you a sense of peace? Or does it leave you feeling confused or unsettled or doubtful? Sometimes the label narcissist can be a powerful tool to help validate your experience and help you make sense of toxic behavior. But if it leaves you feeling more lost, focus on what you observe, their actions, and the impact they have on you. If you'd like a copy of the tools I share, sign up below and you'll get a new 3-minute empowerment plan every week. Have you noticed how the news and social media seem to thrive on making us hate each other? It's like every headline or post is designed to stir outrage or create a fight, and we're all caught in the middle. In 2025, the rise of polarizing media has created fertile ground for narcissistic dynamics to thrive, not just in individuals, but in entire communities. Media platforms profit from the outrage, and the easiest way to keep people hooked is by amplifying narratives that divide us. This constant drumbeat of us versus them frames the other side not just as wrong, but as evil, toxic, or narcissistic. This creates an atmosphere where people are quicker to label anyone they disagree with as a narcissist, throwing the word around without understanding its depth. It fuels hate and distrust, making genuine conversations nearly impossible. And narcissists thrive in this chaos. They know how to manipulate these divisions, positioning themselves as the righteous ones while vilifying others. Whether they're dominating the discussion in a group chat or hijacking a family conversation, they'll exploit the tension to control the narrative and keep everyone divided. The red flag here is that we're seeing a cultural swing here in the US tied to the new presidency, and it's already creating ripple effects around the world. Regardless of which side you're on or who you voted for, it might be helpful to step back and see media itself as a narcissist. It thrives on division, demands your attention, and constantly tests your emotional boundaries by amplifying outrage. Just like a narcissist, it keeps you hooked by making you feel like you have to react. Recognizing this dynamic can help you step out of the cycle and see the bigger picture. Have you ever known someone who's always in crisis, but no matter how much help they get, they never seem to change? It's not about solving their problems, it's about keeping your attention, and that's exactly what narcissists are using to their advantage in 2025. Post-pandemic, our culture has embraced the importance of mental health and protecting the vulnerable, which is a positive shift. But narcissists have learned to exploit this. They share deeply personal struggles, not as a way to connect, but as a way to control. Whether it's mental health challenges, physical ailments, or ongoing crises, they use these narratives to make you feel responsible for their well-being. Their goal isn't healing, it's keeping you hooked on the endless cycle of their problems. In a society that values protecting the vulnerable, it's easy for a predator to play the part. Narcissists know that people naturally want to help and support those who are struggling, so they're going to adopt the role of the victim to gain sympathy and to avoid accountability. They'll say things like, "You don't understand how hard it is for me," or "I thought you cared about me." These statements aren't just emotional, they're strategic. They're designed to pull you into their orbit and to make you feel obligated to stay. This red flag has changed because society has changed. As mental health awareness has grown and vulnerability is increasingly seen as strength, narcissists have shifted their tactics to match the moment. Overt bragging or obvious manipulation is more likely to be called out now, so they've moved toward a more covert strategy, presenting themselves as fragile or struggling. In a culture that encourages empathy and protection for those in pain, this tactic works because it disarms people who might otherwise notice red flags. By appearing vulnerable, narcissists make it harder for you to question their motives without feeling cruel or unsupportive. When someone shares their struggles, it's natural to want to help, especially if you're empathetic. But sometimes what feels like vulnerability can actually be a form of manipulation, pulling you into a cycle where no amount of support ever seems like enough. Here's how to protect your energy while staying compassionate. Start by checking in with yourself. Ask, what's within my capacity to offer right now? This keeps you grounded in your limits. And then ask, is this my responsibility to solve? This helps you avoid taking on burdens that aren't yours. Once you're clear on your boundaries, redirect the responsibility back to them with phrases like, "That sounds really hard. What steps are you thinking of taking?" Or, "I hear you. What's your plan for handling this?" These responses show empathy while gently shifting the focus back to them and their responsibility. Have you ever felt guilty for not replying to a late-night text or an urgent email, even though you're exhausted or you weren't available at the time? In today's world, it's easy to feel like being unavailable makes you rude or worse, selfish maybe. In 2025, boundary pushing has become more subtle and harder to spot, especially as our communication has shifted increasingly online. The post-pandemic normalization of remote work and hybrid environments has blurred the lines between personal and professional availability. What used to be clear, like leaving work at the office or silencing your phone during family time, has become much harder to maintain. This cultural shift gives narcissists new ways to test your boundaries in ways that seem small, but they're very draining. During the pandemic, many of us adapted to the being always on thing, whether we were there for work or family or social connections, teaching our kids school at the same time. This constant online engagement created this culture of accessibility, where a late night text or after hours email or a quick favor became the norm. Narcissists thrive in this environment because it lets them push for more access to your time and energy under the guise of urgency or need. Culturally, we've also become much more sensitive to response times. Tools like instant messaging, email, social media have created an unspoken expectation that no response or a delayed one is rude or unkind. Narcissists know this and they use it to their advantage, framing your lack of availability as selfish or inconsiderate. By manipulating your instinct to stay polite and responsive, they subtly push you into prioritizing their needs over your own boundaries. These blurred boundaries are especially apparent in two areas. At work, narcissists might use hybrid work to interrupt your personal time or label their requests as urgent, masking their overreach as teamwork. At home, in personal relationships, they might send endless texts, frame frequent crises as emergencies, or use guilt-laden language to test how available you'll be. This cultural shift towards constant availability has given narcissists a new window to manipulate, leaving you wondering if it's your boundaries that are the problem or is it their behavior. Recognizing these subtle tactics is key to understanding how narcissists exploit modern communication to get what they want. In today's world of instant communication, it's easy to feel pressured to respond immediately. If someone is pushing for more than you're ready to give, here's how to take back control with a 24-hour response pause. When you receive a late-night text or an urgent email, resist the impulse to respond immediately. Instead, set clear limits. Commit to only responding during certain designated hours, like your workday or during your personal time. If you feel pressured, use a pre-written message to create space. Something like, "Thanks for your message, I'll get back to you tomorrow," or "I'm offline right now, but I'll follow up soon." This pause does more than protect your time. It also reveals the other person's true intentions. Most people will respect your boundaries and wait patiently, but a narcissist is going to escalate using guilt or manipulation to demand a quicker response. By reinforcing your boundaries, you protect your time, energy, and peace of mind. Thanks so much for watching. YouTube thinks you'll love this video right here on screen right now, so go ahead and give it a click. It's packed with more tools to spot narcissists, avoid manipulation, and build boundaries that actually work. Don't miss it. It's the next step towards creating the life you deserve. I'll see you over there. Okay, bye.